Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. "Do you see all these things?" he asked. "Truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, his disciples came to him privately. "Tell us," they said, "when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age?" Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am the Messiah,' and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to the persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other, and many false prophets will appear to deceive many people. Because of the increase in wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of though the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath. For then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. At that time, if anyone says to you, 'Look, here's the Messiah,' or 'There he is,' do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you, 'There he is, out in the wilderness,' do not go out. Or 'Here he is, in the inner rooms,' do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. I apologize. Wherever there is a carcass, there vultures will gather. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all of the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. Truly I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. That was Matthew 24, verse 1 through 32. Got a lot of news tonight. I know we haven't covered a whole lot of news since we started this, and I think we're going to make up for it tonight. In fact, I think I got quite a bit more news ready than what I have to be able to go over. But we shall try. What's going on with my screen there? Let me see if I can get that fixed, okay? We'll give it a shot. Give me a moment here. Well, I don't see, I don't know if you see what I intend you to see, but I do. Anyway, let's get on with the news. A lot going on, a lot going on.
American news every day.
That's not what I wanted.
You know what I think?
Okay. So first on the news is new flu strain created for research leaves the human immune system completely defenseless. This is from the Business Insider. I'll just read the article here and we'll go from there. A scientist who carried out research on making influenza viruses more infectious has deliberately created a potentially lethal strain of the flu that can evade the human immune system. Oh, this is one of those names again. Yoshihiro Kawakoa, something like that, of the University of Wisconsin-Madison has genetically manipulated the 2009 strain of the pandemic flu in order for it to escape the control of the immune system's neutralizing antibodies, effectively making the human population defenseless against its reemergence. Most of the world today has developed some sort of immunity to the 2009 pandemic flu virus, which means that it can now be treated in less dangerous seasonal flu. The professor intentionally set out to see if it was possible to convert it to a pre-pandemic state in order to analyze the genetic changes involved. The study is not published, however. Some scientists who are aware of it are deeply concerned that Dr. Kawaka, however you pronounce his name, was allowed to deliberately remove the only defense against the strain of flu viruses that has already demonstrated its ability to create a deadly pandemic that killed as many as 500,000 people in the first year of its emergence. The professor has so far kept his research secret, but admitted that the work is complete and ready for submission into a scientific journal. The experiment was designed to monitor the changes in the 2009 H1N1 strain of virus that would enable it to escape immune protection in order to improve the design of its vaccines, he said. Through selection of immune escape viruses in the laboratory under appropriate contaminant conditions, we were able to identify the key regions that would enable the 2001 H1N1 virus to escape immunity. Viruses in clinical isolates have been identified that have the same changes in the viral protein. This shows the escape viruses emerge in nature, and laboratory studies like ours have relevance to what occurs in nature. My question is, it's a long article. You can read it all if you'd like. It's on Business Insider. I'm going to start giving links to get to these different stories. But anyway, what's the purpose? They keep saying that it's to help mankind, and it's not. It's actually to create weapons, and I think we all know that. I think we all well know that that's what's going on there. It's biological warfare, which is supposed to be illegal throughout the entire world, but it's not. They just keep plugging at it and keep plugging at it, and I don't know. There's scripture that would support that something like that would happen, but we'll see. We'll see. I just know that that's not what they're doing. If you do your research, your true research on vaccines and vaccinations, you'll find that they really do not have any effectiveness. In fact, it says so right on the insert. All you got to do is ask your doctor for the insert, or go on the internet and look it up, and it tells you right there that it has never been proven to have any effectiveness on preventing any type of disease or illness or sickness or anything like that. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, I just know that even if somebody like the scientist has good intentions, those good intentions usually get swayed, and that's where you get our really nasty weapons of all kinds. I mean, they've taken Tesla's studies and his experiments, and they have really gone nuts with those. They still use those, as far as I know. Still use some of that technology in today's weaponry. Pretty amazing what Tesla knew. It really is. Get on to the next story here. If that wasn't bad enough, it's in my opinion, even worse. U.S. Nuke sites dismantled security to save money. This is from the Washington Free Beacon, and let me read this article to you. The organization responsible for securing America's highly sensitive nuclear sites has been suffering from chaotic and dysfunctional security policy that has endangered this country's nuclear sites and left them vulnerable to attack, according to a new report by the government's watchdog group. The National Nuclear Security Administration, which is tasked with the managing of the nuclear stockpile and secured classified research documents, has increased risk and reduced security over the past several years in a bid to reduce overhead costs. Security vulnerabilities at these NNSA sites still persist 2 years after a major breach at one of the top facilities in Tennessee. The administration's own officials have described the security policy as chaotic and dysfunctional, according to the report. Further security reforms put in place since 2012 breach at the Y-12 National Security Complex in Tennessee have not effectively mitigated risks posed to this facility and others across the nation, according to the report, which urged the NNSA to develop a clear security plan going forward. The schizophrenic security procedures, which often vary from facility to facility, have not effectively been addressed by the NNSA, which still cannot fully resolve long-standing security management and oversight problems, according to the report. NNSA may prolong what some of its officials have described as a chaotic or dysfunctional period in NNSA's security program since the 2012 security breach, according to the report. In addition, NNSA risks putting in place short-lived or ineffective responses to its security problems, on which GAO and others have reported for more than a decade. Severe security gaps were first identified in 2012 after 3 trespassers gained access to the protected area directly adjacent to one of the nation's most critically important nuclear weapon-related facilities at the Y-12 facility. However, reforms put in place in the years since that breach lack a clear vision and path forward, according to the report. NNSA took a number of actions designed to improve its security performance and oversight, but did so without first developing a clear vision and path forward for its security program and an implementation strategy, including milestones and responsibilities for carrying them out, according to the report. The problems first began in 2009 when the NNSA attempted to reform its security measures in a bid to cut costs of about $53 million. These reforms, which allowed for independent contractors working for the NNSA to assume greater authority to make security decisions and accept risk, actually increase security risk and reduce security performance at Y-12 and other sites, according to the report. NNSA officials and contractors reported to the GAO that some recommendations made during the reviews may have encouraged inappropriate risk, for example, calling for cuts in what some of the officials or contractors described as critical protective force posts and patrols. Other action to implement the reforms may also have increased risk, particularly at Y-12, and likely contributed to the 2012 security breach. As these reforms are being implemented, the Department of Energy and NNSA scaled back on the security inspections and increased their reliance on contractors to self-monitor and self-evaluate their security performance at NNSA sites. Since the time of Y-12 security breach, the NNSA has started and stopped several new security programs and failed to identify a clear plan going forward, according to the report. The NNSA, among other things, started, then discontinued, a security inspection program and also reorganized its headquarters security office twice. NNSA undertook these and other actions without first developing the NNSA security roadmap that its security task force had called for in 2012. As a priority recommendation after the Y-12 breach, the GAO continues to urge the NNSA to develop and implement a clear security plan that can adequately protect facilities from risk. Yeah, that was about boring, wasn't it? But at the same time, it's kind of scary because those sites, of course, they have, I don't know if it's just nuclear weapons or if they have materials there or exactly what all they have there, but nevertheless, our security in this entire country has been just so weakened. it's hard to, it's hard to look at it, all the different things, whether it be from the security from space, because the satellites that protect our southern skies, they were turned off. I want to say it was like going on almost 2 years ago, or maybe it was just a year ago. Um, of course, we got all the lack of security at the southern border, and people are just walking over into the United States. Um, it's very interesting what's all going on. It's almost like they're tempting people to do things, and in the media they're talking about all these different things that could be done, by just anybody. Big national security threats that could be just done by anybody, and then they're giving out the details of where different locations were, how you could do these things. It's almost like they're begging somebody to do something in this country, and that should be scary enough. Why would you advertise? They. I'm not sure about the whole Edward Snowden deal. I'm really not. I kind of smell something fishy with that deal. But I can say, why would the government be all up in arms over Edward Snowden, right? Who released things that, yeah, some of them might be of danger. Other things might cause ripples between nations. But I don't know what this last round of stuff is that they're supposed to be releasing here soon. But from everything I've seen that has been released so far, there's nothing that I could say that actually jeopardized national security. You don't think that the government over in the UK or Russia or anywhere else didn't know that we were spying on them? Come on. Like I've said many times, this is this is an effort between nations. This isn't, nations working together, These countries aren't in control. And every one of them knows that every single thing that happens on this earth is monitored. It's monitored, it's recorded, and it's stored. And that's just a fact. I didn't need Edward Snowden to come out and tell me that. I've been saying that for a very, very long time. I knew, as a matter of fact, back when pagers were all the big deal. What was that, around the mid-90s or early 90s? Yeah, I guess it was early 90s. Every time you got a page, I knew that information was stored, that information was recorded. And it's funny, I would say something, to different friends or people I knew, and, of course, I needed to go get out that tinfoil. And now today, we have the NSA and the government that are admitting to it. I mean, they don't, but what a lot of people really don't understand is that it's every single phone call. Every single phone call. It's everything. I mean, they record everything. And then they're going to turn around, because they're worried about this or they're worried about that, but then they're going to turn around and okay things, because trust me, everything that goes in national news is okayed, unless it's done by a totally alternate news site or something like that. But I mean, these are documents that were released about our facilities, our nuclear facilities, so I'm sure it's public information. You could go to any number of actual government websites and get a copy of the actual document itself. But I was talking about the phone calls and stuff like that being recorded, and that wasn't an intended segue or anything like that. But the next story happens to be U.S. Privacy Board defends conclusion that foreign surveillance is legal. Now this says foreign surveillance, but I want you to keep in mind, as I read you this article, they're not just talking about foreign surveillance. If there's so many things that I didn't get to cover yesterday. One of the things is that the entire world, our Earth, was deemed a battleground. And I believe that was done in 2012 when that NDAA came out. You can go check into that. You can go research that. But the entire Earth was declared a battleground. At that time, That gives so many rights. And I can't speak for other countries. I don't know their laws, but and I don't know all of ours. But I do know that once the United States is deemed a battleground, that gives them the right to invoke martial law. It gives them the right to do a lot of things, and that's already been done. That's already, been put in place. I don't want you to take my word for it. I don't want you to take my word for anything that comes out of my mouth. I want you to go and research the facts yourself. That way you know. That way you know. Just spend a little bit of time a day, dedicate an hour a day. Everybody can find an hour. Turn that TV off. Just turn it off. Go to your computer and spend an hour and research some of the stuff that I'm talking about. And you'll find out, oh, wow, that was done. Well, how come nobody told me? Well, they did. There's been people telling you for a long time. Everybody's got that guy on Facebook. I'm that guy. Thank you very much. But everybody's got that guy on Facebook. And that's been posting all this stuff, and they just ignore him. They just, oh, this guy's silly, buying some more tinfoil for Christmas. But they weren't silly. They knew what they were talking about. But we'll go on to read this article. I just wanted to remind you to think about it a little bit more. We're not just talking about foreign surveillance. I'm sure of that. A U.S. National Security Agency surveillance program targeting foreign terrorism suspects does what Congress intended it to do. Members of a government piracy oversight board said Wednesday, defending their report defines the spying legal and effective. Well, I have to say right off the bat, we have not stopped any terrorism. That's a fact. Look it up. We haven't stopped anything. You really can't stop crime. You just can't. I'm sitting here right now. If somebody wants to break in and rob me, what am I going to do to stop it unless I can defend myself? Okay? So, how can you stop terrorism? It's not something that you don't start a Facebook group first. You don't start a Facebook page. You don't start up a website and say, a million people to bomb whatever, okay? You don't do that. You keep everything quiet. You don't, I know a lot of people would say, oh, well, there's the guy that was caught on the airplane, the underwear bomber or the shoe bomber or any number of these, I'm telling you right now, do your research. Do your research. They haven't caught anybody. In fact, Obama was just nice enough to let a bunch of them go. So anyway, back on to the news story. The NSA surveillance program focused on collecting electronic communications related to foreign terrorism and other intelligence works as described in the FISA Amendments Act, a law that was debated in public, the U.S. Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board said in its report. The surveillance program's inadvertent collection of some U.S. communications means the agency must consider the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which protects the country's residents against unreasonable searches by the government, but the Fourth Amendment does not protect foreigners. That's true. It's a slippery slope, something that got to be careful about getting started because they'll find reason after reason after reason. Although some privacy advocates have criticized the report, the FISA Amendments Act, as originally written, doesn't give the same privacy protections to foreigners as it does U.S. residents. She's a retired judge, or the lady saying this is a retired judge. It's oriented towards getting foreign intelligence or information. The FISA surveillance program provides some privacy protections, said David Medine. The law requires the NSA to target its surveillance at specific people or groups, with the agency focusing on 90,000 targets in 2013, he noted. While that's not an insignificant number, it's tiny compared to the billions of people around the world, he said. Yeah. The PCLOB plans to weigh in on President Barack Obama's proposal from January to add more privacy protections for foreigners into the NSA surveillance programs, Medine said. Board members also defended the foreign surveillance program as effective in contrast to a separate NSA program collecting U.S. telephone records. The PCLOB in January report said the telephone records program had only limited value and violated the Constitution. But the foreign surveillance program has been a valuable piece of the U.S. government's counterterrorism efforts, said board member Elizabeth Collins Cook, a lawyer. The program has helped government agents learn about the membership, leadership, structure, priorities, tactics, and plans of the international terrorist organizations, she said. The program has also allowed the discovery and disruption of plots against the U.S. and foreign countries, she added. Yeah, I want to see them. I want to see a list. The new report provides the most comprehensive examination of the NSA's foreign surveillance programs, board members said. It also dispels several misconceptions about the programs, one being that foreign surveillance, like the U.S. telephone records collection, indiscriminately collects the electronic communications in bulk, Medine said. In bulk. Everything. Everything. This broadcast. Your phone calls to your sons or daughters or sisters or brothers or moms or dads or uncles or aunts. It does not matter. Every single thing is recorded. Everything. Everything. Everything that's on the internet, everything you text with your phone, absolutely everything is recorded. I guarantee it. I promise you. Read the Snowden documents, and it's all in there. I think that was a big test, really. I really do. Let's get on to this, because I believe the next part's going to tell us about what is targeted. Yeah, okay. While the NSA has said it collects millions of foreign emails, telephone calls, and other electronic communications, the program is not a bulk collection program because it targets specific suspects, Medine said. Yeah, like all of us. That's how we would describe in the surveillance, if not bulk collection. Medine said, it's a big program, but it's not a bulk program. I'm sorry. This is like reading a comic book for me. The PCLOB's report makes 10 recommendations for changes to the NSA's foreign surveillance programs. Among the recommendations, the NSA should specify the expected intelligence value of a target before collecting communications, and the FBI, which can query the NSA's database in U.S. criminal investigations, should better describe its data minimization practices related to the NSA's database. The report cautioned that the incidental collection of communications of U.S. residents raises privacy concerns. I love that. The report's recommendations should help push the NSA surveillance programs more comfortable in the sphere of reasonableness, Medine said. Some privacy advocates slam the report, saying it ignores concerns about a lack of judicial oversight for the NSA's foreign surveillance. As the board itself explains, the law has been used to authorize the NSA's wiretapping of the entire internet backbone so that the NSA can scan untold numbers of our emails and other online messages for information about tens of thousands of targets that the NSA chooses without individualized court approval. We'll get to that in a moment. Said Kevin Bankston, Policy Director of the New American Foundation's Open Technology Institute, by email. Wow. The reforms proposed the board initially boiled down to suggesting that the government should do more and better paperwork and develop stricter internal protocols as a check against abuse, he added. Just weeks after the U.S. House of Representatives voted to end the NSA's query of U.S. communications caught up in its foreign surveillance efforts. The board's endorsement of the warrantless rummaging through our communications is disappointing, Bankston added. Well, what was that I had noted in there? You know, it's absurd. I know quite a few people. I know a big amount of people in this world, and I know some pretty rough cut people. I know some people that really stand behind this Constitution. I'm one of them. And I know some people that are very vocal about standing behind their Constitution and their beliefs and whatnot. And not one of them have ever said anything about provoking an attack. Not one of them. And I guarantee you all these people are being watched. I mean, like I say, every one of us are being recorded, but anybody that's had anything to say, anti-government or, um, guarantee you that they got a little flag next to them. Police can use your phone records, and I do believe it was finally decided upon that they didn't have to have a warrant to be able to use location data, all kinds of data, your text data, I mean, anything and everything that's on your phone. Now, it's to my knowledge that if you get incarcerated for any reason and you have your cell phone on you, they will download every bit of information. And this is not, again, this is not tinfoil hat stuff. When they take your cell phone, they plug it in and download all your data. Now, let me throw something out there just to maybe ring a bell, maybe. A lot of you may not know this, but there was a law put in effect not real super long ago that the telephone companies, well, I should say the phone manufacturers, had to go to a certain plug. Of course, the only one that was allowed to go past this idea was Apple. Go figure. But they all had to switch to that little USB plug, that little, I don't know the exact name of the jack, but I call it a micro USB, but that's not really descriptive enough. But anyway, you know the jack I'm talking about. All the current phones use the same jack, of course, except for Apple products. That became a law that they had to go to that jack. Now, trust me, that didn't become a law so that because they were worried that you might have a hard time finding a phone charger. They don't care. That became a law so that it would be easier to be able to plug into these devices. I guarantee you. So it's a scary time, folks. If you've ever seen the movie or read the book 1984, what we have going on today makes that look like a joke. I mean, it makes that look like a playground. And it's bad. If you research a little bit, I don't know how many people realize this, the thing about facial recognition has been around for a little while, and if you don't believe in facial recognition, it's here. It's been implemented on Facebook for a long time. Okay, for instance, I've got Facebook up right now. Hi, NSA. So if I go to a certain special lady's profile, and I click on her profile picture, and I hover over her picture, a box pops up around her head, and it says, do I want to tag her, yes or no? Well, the answer is no. I'm not going to do that to anybody. And I would appreciate nobody do that to me. This is facial recognition software. Now, just because I'm on her profile picture, that isn't how the system knows it's her. I could, in turn, I could upload the same picture to any other person's wall or whatever in their pictures, and it would do the exact same thing. If I would hover her face, that the facial recognition software has already recognized who she is, and it basically wants everybody to identify everybody. I mean, that's kind of unsettling for me, but it's all right. I'm in their system. They like me. They know me. But anyway, just something to think about. Now, beyond that, right, because people say, oh, well, wear a mask. That's not going to do you any good. Because now they have technology that can actually monitor your walk, how you walk. Everybody's got a certain walk. And yes, I mean, it will identify you as much as a fingerprint or DNA, or everybody has just his exact certain walk. And the new systems can tell who's who just by that, without seeing a face. It's true. One of the things I noticed one day, and again, this was unsettling. This was really unsettling. I was walking out of a Walmart store, and I noticed as I was walking out, on each side of the door there were scanners. Yes, I said scanners, not cameras. There were scanners on each side, and that's exactly what they were. They were facial recognition, and I don't know what they call the scanners that detect how people walk and stuff, but that's what they did. That's what they did. And that was in itself unsettling, because where can we go now that we aren't actually being monitored? And we already know that Walmart works hand in hand with these organizations like the NSA, and that's no secret. And again, I understand a lot of the stuff I might say to a lot of you people. You might be in disbelief of it. Just research it. I've done this stuff. And I can't seem to convince anybody that doesn't take the time out to do the legwork to learn this stuff. They don't believe it. They just pass on, and they just think people are crazy. All you got to do is do the work, check it out yourself. You'll find out. But being able to detect and monitor where you go, that's not good. That's not good. Like I say, if you've read or seen the movie 1984, that stuff makes what was in that book or in the movie, makes it look minimal. It really does. A lot of other things in the news today. New bomb fear prompts TSA to boost security. I'll read the headline. I'm not going to get into the story. New bomb fears prompts TSA to boost security for U.S. bound flights. Shouldn't that have been done a long time ago anyway? It's a joke. But remember, our southern border is wide open. So, don't fly over here. Just put it in a freaking backpack and walk across the southern border. You know what I mean? It's stupidity. It's ludicrous. We got people starving. We got homeless veterans. We got all this stuff, yet we're paying all this money for all this surveillance equipment and all these employees and all that to basically molest people and take away any of their natural born rights. Their natural born rights that they're infringing upon. If you go back and you study anything about the Holocaust in Nazi Germany, they demoralized the public before they did what they did. That is what's going on right now to all of you. They're demoralizing you. And everything comes into that. Whether you're talking about all the pets that are being killed, all the dogs being killed by the police, or all the people getting beaten, or all the people getting killed by the police. When it comes to, all kinds of stuff that is going on, they're demoralizing you. That's how you get control over somebody. Trust me, if you've ever been an abuse victim, you realize real quick that the biggest power that the abuser has over you is the fact that they demoralize you. I know that from experience. I've been there. I working on getting out of a marriage where I was demoralized quite a bit. So, if you've been there, you'll understand that they demoralize you first, and then that's when the real, if you want to call it fun, that's when the real fun starts. Anyway, yeah, this stuff with acting like it's security. Let me tell you something about security. Security is just an illusion. I say the same thing for trust. Because you can trust somebody all you want. It doesn't mean that your trust is going to be validated. You may be with a partner. You can trust them that they're not, that they're going to be faithful on you, and they wouldn't cheat on you for anything. And then turn around and they may be leaving early for work or whatever, and going to meet with their other person. And what did that trust get you? It got you to be foolish. Okay? I'm not saying don't trust people. Just have enough common sense to realize trust is an illusion. And the same thing goes for security. Okay? I'm surprised I didn't get a phone call tonight, by the way. But I could walk over there and I could dial 911 and I could sit here and time how long it would take for an officer to get here. But I guarantee you that an officer is not faster than the speed of a bullet. Okay? I can't rely on the police to protect me any more than what anybody else can. I can't, I mean, I'm more likely for the neighbors I don't even know to protect me than I do the police, because they're closer. They call police and EMTs and all that, they call them first responders. And by no means do I mean any disrespect to anybody that's in any of those roles, but you are not first responders. You're second responders. First responders are people that are there on the scene at the time of the incident. Those are the first responders. So, if I had a firearm and somebody busted in that door, being the first responder that I am, okay, I could take action against that person. Okay, otherwise, I can dial 911, or neighbors can dial 911 after they see me laying in a pool of blood or whatever, and the police can come and clean up the mess. That's pretty much the truth of how it goes. It's sad, it's ugly, but it's the truth. And I can't change the truth, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, and I'm not going to lie to anybody. Security is something that you can only do for yourself. It's a fact. So let's get on to another headline that I had ran into. This is rather interesting. New combat robot is Russian's army's very own deadly Wall-E. They got a little robot with paint treads on it. Looks like it's got some type of missile canisters or whatnot on it. Mortar canisters, something of that sort, and of course it's got a heavy machine gun on it. But it's on tracks, and I guarantee you that toys like this have been around for a little while. I believe again in the 80s is when they really started to play with robots and stuff like that. Somewhere, I think it was DARPA, or maybe it was another organization that was working on a vehicle that could drive in the ground, or it could take off vertically into the air. But I really don't know what its role is supposed to be right off the top of my head. I would have to go back through and find that article. It's actually been some time ago. I believe I was in Alabama yet whenever I was looking up the information on that. DARPA, there is an amazing group to check out. For those that are not in the know, if you go on the internet, go to Google and search for DARPA, D-A-R-P-A. It's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. You'll find a lot of interesting stuff on that. Right on their own website. Go to darpa.mil, and there you go. There's a military site for you. DARPA.mil. And you'll see plenty of information about their robotics programs and different stuff. What gets scary is if you look at like what DARPA is doing, and then there's another company. Let me see if I can find it on. Just a second here. I'll find you the name of the company. Trying to find out the name of the company for you. I apologize, it's taken me a moment. Not looking, or not seeing. Gen 2 system being developed by the joint venture between Rockwell Collins and Elbit Systems of America, then called Vision Systems International. Okay. This helmet for this F-35 aircraft is absolutely unbelievable. and I mean you can look up this information online again, and they're actual. You know, it's not some freaked out guy or something that's doing these reports. You can go on and look. I'm trying to see if this one says anything really interesting about this helmet, but I did study this helmet quite thoroughly, and this thing. The pilot doesn't even have to push a button in the aircraft anymore to launch a missile. I don't think it's voice activated. I do think that it's let's see. It says it was deficient in the areas of night vision, acuity, display jitter during aircraft buffeting, and image latency from the fighter's electro-optical distributed aperture system. Okay, which I couldn't sit there and explain all that to you. But this helmet can do just amazing things to control this aircraft. At the same time, this helmet can actually see through a large majority of the aircraft. And I know that probably sounds like it's crazy talk. Research the helmet. It's the F-35, Foxtrot-35. We've spent a ton of money on this aircraft. And it's a pretty awesome aircraft, even though it's ran into a lot of problems during development, and it still continues to run into problems. It's actually a pretty interesting aircraft. But the helmet, research that helmet. That thing can do so much stuff, and I do believe a lot of it's just by mental thought. Is how the helmet works. So if you couple that technology with these helmets that they're designing and perfecting for these aircraft. Couple that with DARPA's, robotic projects and stuff like that. Things start to get a little scary then when you throw all that together. But yeah, robots are way more advanced than even what Russia's showing with their Platform M combat robot here. But it's the way of the future. You know, I'll tell you what, I'd rather see something like Transformers out there or something, you know what I mean, fighting than men and women losing lives. I would much rather see that, but unfortunately that's not what it's being used for. They're using these robots or drones. A drone is just a robot, that's all it is. But they're using them to actually do harm to humans. And at the same time lessen the ability to cause harm against our humans. And that's not, I guess it's good if you want to win a war, but why are we fighting again? Oh, yeah, right. We can't figure that one out yet because we couldn't find the weapons of mass destruction. That the whole story of 9/11 sinks to high heaven. So you tell me, why are we fighting? Oh, yeah, that's right, because all these countries are not involved in the international banking system. That's right. That's right. So by that, you can look at which countries are not involved in that banking system, the centralized banking system, and you'll know where the next wars are going to be. And it's been that way. Just go back and look. Go back and research that. It's sad. I shouldn't laugh about it. Of course, I don't live there, and I obviously don't have friends and family that's perished as a result of these wars. And I do feel for those people. But the truth needs to be known. I mean, a lot of this comes down to simply money. Everybody wants to say, oil and drugs, and yeah, those play a part in it. I mean, come on, our military was over there guarding the poppy fields, Yeah, you better believe drugs has something to do with it. You better believe oil has something to do with it. But it's money and it's gold. That's really, and when I say money, I'm talking about the banking system. They want control of all the money that goes in and out of every place on this planet. And they won't stop killing people until they get it, until they achieve that. That's what the wars are over. Nothing else. That's what the wars are over. We got 10 minutes left. I'll discuss something that's in the media. I guess I'll read the little story here. Duck Dynasty's Robertson. Lord, I pray Hollywood repents before you burn them all in the end. The prayer of thanks to God offered at the end of the watch up each episode of Duck Dynasty is what helped make patriarch Phil Robertson into an influential Christian speaker, even a prophet, said as his son, Alan Robertson, who added that in one of the early prayers for the show, his father had called upon the Hollywood backers of the program to repent before God burned them all in the end. And so everybody bowed their head around the time for the prayer, and they said, "Okay, Mr. Phil, if you would start the prayer," recounted Alan Robertson at the Family Research Council's recent Watchman on the Wall ministry gathering in Washington, D.C. And Phil said, "Lord, I just pray today for this group that here from Hollywood, California, I pray that they would repent and turn to you before you burn them all in the end. And they probably won't run this, but in the name of your Son, Jesus, amen." So we looked up, and everybody's eyes were this big around, said Alan Robertson. Alan, who is an ordained Christian preacher and a member of Duck Dynasty's cast, recounted that story while explaining that his father, who is a born-again Christian, is frequently asked by people to talk about the Bible and to sometimes offer spiritual guidance. Because of the televised family prayer each week, Phil Robertson's outspoken views on faith and culture and the popularity of the program Duck Dynasty is the highest-rated reality TV show in cable history. The family has had to put up a gate around his house because people travel to the property, said Alan Robertson. Many people make their way out just to talk to my dad about the good news of Jesus Christ, he said. What's interesting is how it came to be is phenomenal. It really was just one prayer on a televised show, said Alan Robertson. He then explained in more detail how the prayer scene unfolded. Now, nobody knew our show was going to be as popular as it was, said Alan. There's reality shows all over the place about all kinds of different families and all kinds of different crazy scenarios, and you can usually tell when a reality TV show is on, even if you're not in the room for all the beeping that's going on from the other room, right? Because usually it's not the sort of thing you would want to watch for you. Would you want to want your children to watch, or you certainly wouldn't want your church to watch. Our show was something very different, he said. We sat down for the family prayer and we filmed it around the table because we realized that we want to get a message kind of upstairs or up to New York or over to LA. You do something on camera because everybody watches that. He continued, and so everybody bowed their head around the time for prayer, and they said, "Oh, okay, Mr. Phil, this is repeating. Let me get past that." Yeah, he just repeated that. I apologize. It then goes on to say Duck Dynasty is in its 6th season and is broadcast on the A&E cable, a plug. But anyway, I will say I'm not much for a lot of the TV stuff. I've never even seen one episode of Duck Dynasty. I'm not interested. I will say though, if I were to watch any of the reality TV shows, I'd be more likely to watch that just simply because of the values. But I agree, these shows are sickening. They're absolutely sickening. And things going on in my own personal life, it really astonishes me. It's very ironic. Very ironic. I quit watching TV several years ago, and I had also made a point to stop the TV that was within my household. I didn't want my children to see what garbage was on television. And for those few years they lived, it didn't kill them, and it really bothers me because I'm sure that they've got their nose stuck in it now, and it's really sad. It's really sad when our society is turned upside down, when we forget what's right and what's wrong. Really sad. I can say one thing: take everything to God. Take everything to God, and if it's not right, don't do it. It's that simple. Don't care what your neighbor thinks. Don't care what this person or that person thinks. If it's not right, don't do it. Because in the end, you will face judgment. You can't get out of that. You just can't get out of that. What are you going to do? Lie to God? I dare you. I dare you. Because then you just get another judgment. Why not clean up your lives now? Turn that garbage off. Research some of the things. God wanted us to know what was going on around us so that we could be better prepared. You read the scripture and it's very clear about these things. Very clear about these things. You know, it talks about over and over about those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. I do believe that some people are picked to have eyes to see and ears to hear. I do believe that I am one of those people. But I don't believe for a second that anybody can't do it. I don't believe that. I believe if you turn to God, and if you're trying and you still don't have eyes to see and ears to hear, I think if you truly turn to God, you repent in your ways and you ask Him, I think He will help you see, and I think He will help you hear. That's about all I have for tonight. I love you all. Hang in there. Be one with your spirit. God bless you and may He walk with you every day. Good night.